Hey guys, Joe here, and here we're going to talk about a new discussion, and that discussion is advancing the meta. Now this will be going over a little bit about how we are advancing the meta, how pros do it, and just talking in general about advancing the meta. So if you are interested in that type of thing, continue to watch. But let's get straight to this first point. Now the first thing that you can do personally, or that a lot of people do, is to go straight to the lab and try out new things that you never thought were possible. Now a lot of people will actually do this, a ton of people, and you can probably find a lot of videos of these online, showing somebody going into training mode or something like that, or going against a friend, and just seeing exactly what your character can do. Now something that you could say was like going to the lab, is learning all these Lucas 0 to death combos. I mean, they don't work way too much, but they do kind of work, and they're pretty cool, like the down throw, footstool combos and stuff like that. Those are really nice, and it's just after some lab that we can really see that. Now, also something like down throw, down B as Luigi, people really didn't know that at the very beginning, but quickly people came to learn that, and just as you go to the lab and practice and do way more things that you really didn't think were possible, you'll of course come up with new information, and you'll be able to do better overall. So really going to the lab and just trying out new things that you never thought you'd really figure out, really can help advance the meta, and just making your characters a lot better. Now the next thing is that you should be trying to play your character versus every other character in the game and see what your character can do in certain situations that will counter the enemy moves. Now for example, you could have somebody like a Luigi that can does the down throw and then his combos and stuff like that, and quickly you could figure out that with somebody like Yoshi, sometimes you can just press Nairo to stop him, but you could also figure out that sometimes you could just stop him from even getting the down throw, or you could just stop him from getting like a down air in certain situations. There's a lot of weird things that you can figure out in character matchups, and once you figure out that information, you should try to post it on the internet and get that widespread, because after that's widespread, it'll make your character a little bit better versus that character, make the other guy versus you not quite as good, but he may find some counter tactics against you. So pretty much a way to advance the meta is to just find counters, ways you counter somebody and ways that they can counter you back. It's pretty much just a countering game, back and forth, and it really can just help you kind of see exactly how you can play versus the matchups, and just makes your matchups a lot more interesting and intuitive. Now the next thing is that something that can really advance the meta is playing 2v2s and figuring out what combos you can figure out pretty much. Now I know not very many people play 2v2s. I do really like to see it. It makes the game a lot more fast-paced in my opinion, and just makes it a lot more fun to watch. But maybe if you don't like 2v2s, this won't be quite as much for you. But something that I really do like to see is playing 2v2s and see what type of combos you can figure out. Now yesterday I did figure out a combo with one of my friends on accident, just pure accident, with a John Cena me, and I will be showing that tomorrow. It probably has already been done by some other people that may have found out before, but to me this is the first time I have seen this thing, and I really think it's a pretty cool thing that we have come up with. Now, it's really cool to just try to figure out these 2v2 combos. It's really awesome to just see exactly what you can do with all these different moves in the game, and just see kind of how people like footstools and stuff like that, down throws, how they all work together to become just a little bit better in the meta, and it can make some stuff that looks very, very cool overall, and that's just why I like 2v2s and trying to just get better, more combos in the 2v2 metas. Now, the next is to pick an underused character and see how their moves work together, and see what you can do with that character. Now, of course, it's a lot easier to advance the meta on an underused character compared to an overused character. If a character is overused, that means a lot of people are playing them, a lot of people are figuring out exactly what they can do, and a lot of people just kind of see exactly what's going on with them and, just continue the meta, so you probably won't have as much of an impact. But if you play a person that just doesn't get played that much, for example, Bowser Jr., and I think it's Trick or something like that, I can't remember the exact name. There's one Bowser Jr. that is very famous, and he's been advancing the meta for that Bowser Jr. for quite a long time. And as you can see, you can just kind of figure out what's going on after playing your character for enough time. You can see the different type of combos that they have. And just play an underused character if you really want to be a little bit more impactful on advancing the meta. But you could also advance it quite fast just by playing an overused character. It's just a little bit harder, I would say. If you really want to be one of those guys that just kind of sees what's happening in the meta, advances it, makes new stuff happen, plays the new good characters, and I'd say do try to pick a little bit of an underused character and see exactly what they do, but pick an underused character that you see a lot of potential in, because of course you'll be able to make those combos and all those cool things that people like to watch. Now the next thing is that you should make up new types of strings and just pretty much make strings instead of just pure combos, pretty much the pure straight up combos that always work. Many strings will do a lot more damage than true combos, but they are just a lot less reliable. But even though they aren't reliable, their end result may end up better in a lot of situations. Now, if you see a lot of these high-level tournament players, like pretty much zeros, 0 to death, not 0 to death, zeros like Hoo-Ha of death combo and stuff like that, as you can see, it's not really an exact combo. It's more of a string, and these strings do a lot of damage. They usually end up getting the kills. The combos are better most of the time, I'd say, at early to mid percents. Sometimes on some characters they can work at late percents, but I feel like they're better to just tack on some damage. But strings are really the cool things that you can watch. They're the things that can get 0 to deaths. They're all those really nice little things, so you can kind of see what your character can do. Also with strings, a lot of times, they'll only have 1 or 2 different ways that they can get out of the string. Pretty much, let's say you just have a string where either they can jump and they'll get out, or they can just not jump and they'll keep getting hit. But if they jump, you could also jump and just keep hitting them, or you could just hit lower. Pretty much, strings are really a guessing game, and if you do guess right, you can do a lot of damage with strings. So I would recommend to go on pretty much just with a friend online and see exactly what type of strings you can pull off with your character, like a Pikachu or something like that, Sheik. There are a ton of strings that can be pulled off, and some cool things that you can show off. And these are really the things I do feel like will advance the meta the most, because a lot of true combos do come out very quickly, all the characters' best combos come out, but really after that, the strings are just the things that look cool and just the things that kind of add a little bit more flavor into the game, but they too take a lot more time to get used to, and a lot of times they aren't as true, so people just won't go for them as much. But when the game does get a little bit more risky, strings can, of course, come out and just be the victor compared to just these combos that work over and over again, but aren't quite as just don't do quite as much damage, I would say, or get as much kills earlier. But overall, I just say try to learn some strings, not just pure combos, because some strings can be very nice, and I would just recommend that you try to learn those and place those on the internet also. The next thing is, of course, you can watch some pro players and see the new tactics that they're all doing, and then, of course, pick up those brand new tactics. Now, of course, pro players are the people that spend a lot of time into the game, test a lot in the lab, test a lot against other players, do all the stuff that I said previously pretty much, and you can just watch them and see exactly what they figured out. Now, I know this is what most people do, they just wait for the pros to do it all, and then, you know, you learn from the pros, but I would say, if you can possibly, try to do it without the pros, try to learn quicker than the pros, and it'll just be kind of cool. You'll be able to figure out this nice thing that could advance the meta by yourself, or maybe you'll just find something that doesn't quite advance it, but just looks very nice. So I'd say pros do make a big part in advancing the meta, but of course you can still make a difference. You can still find out some stuff that pros do not find out pretty much, and then you can show it to them, and you can get all the credit and that stuff like that. And you could really help advance the meta by yourself, just if you tried to put in some time and look exactly what you can do. And the final way that I'd say that meta really gets advanced is with a lot of buffs and a lot of nerfs from Nintendo. Now, Nintendo does buff people a lot and nerf people a lot, as we've seen from Diddy Kong, we saw from Meta Knight, we saw from Ike. Pretty much, they can make a bad character into one of the better characters in the game, aka Meta Knight, or they can make a good character into a decent character, pretty much Diddy Kong. They can do all these different things that can buff or nerf people a ton, or just a little bit, and they can, of course, advance the metagame. They can make the Donkey Kong metagame a lot better by giving him that little ding-dong combo. They can really just do whatever they want as far as Nintendo, but the problem is, waiting for Nintendo to advance the metagame on your character is not always the best choice. It's not always the best to just try to be like, okay, I'll just wait until my character gets a buff. Because of what we've seen from Zelda, you might get buffs, but they don't really mean anything like at all. Like the 1% up tilt buffs and stuff like that. They just don't mean way too much. So instead of just waiting for these buffs, I would recommend that you do go out and try to find the ways to advance the meta for yourself. Thank you guys for watching though. I hope this video did entertain you a little bit and make you just think about how you can personally advance the meta, or just some ways that you have seen people really advance the meta. If you did enjoy, make sure to press that like button and comment down below the ways that you try to advance the meta for your character, or just the ways that you follow the advancing meta of your character, or just of the game in general. Thank you guys for watching though, and I'll see you all next time.